My beloved child, come sit with me here, in this room you did not choose to be in, the one with no clear exit date, no scheduled time when someone will finally call your name and tell you it is time to move forward. I know how long you have been sitting in this waiting room, whether it is the search for work that has stretched on longer than you ever expected, the singleness that has lasted far past when you assumed it would end, or simply the ongoing ache of asking me when, again and again, without a clear answer arriving. My beloved child, I want to tell you something plainly today. This waiting room is not empty time. I am preparing you here in ways that could not happen anywhere else. I want you to understand something about how waiting rooms actually function, both the literal ones and the ones life places you in unexpectedly. My beloved child, a waiting room is never actually the final destination. It exists specifically because something else is coming, some appointment, some meeting, some next step that has not yet arrived but is genuinely on its way. The presence of a waiting room does not indicate that nothing is happening. It indicates that something is being prepared, just beyond what you can currently see from where you are sitting. I want you to consider how differently you might experience this season if you trusted that the waiting itself has purpose, rather than viewing it simply as wasted time to be endured until your real life finally resumes. My beloved child, I am not asking you to pretend the waiting does not hurt, does not create genuine hardship, does not test your patience in ways that feel, some days, nearly unbearable. I am asking you to trust that even here in this uncomfortable room, I am actively working, preparing you, preparing your circumstances, preparing the very thing you are waiting for. I also want to speak to the specific exhaustion of not knowing how long this particular waiting room will hold you. My beloved child, uncertainty about duration is often one of the hardest parts of waiting, harder in some ways than the waiting itself. If you knew this season would last exactly one more month, you could brace yourself accordingly. But not knowing, wondering if it will be weeks, months, or years creates its own particular kind of weariness. I understand this weariness completely, and I want you to know that even in the uncertainty of how long, I remain fully present with you. I want you to bring me the specific waiting room you are currently sitting in, whatever form it takes in your life right now. My beloved child, I am not distant from this room. I am sitting here with you, fully present, fully aware of everything this waiting is costing you, fully committed to the preparation happening here, even in the moments it feels like nothing productive is happening at all. So my beloved child, receive this truth today. The waiting room is not empty time. It is not wasted time. It is preparation time, and I am fully engaged in that preparation even now, even in this uncomfortable, uncertain season that has stretched on far longer than you ever expected it to. My beloved child, I have shown you that the waiting room is not empty time. And now I want to speak specifically to those of you waiting in the particular room of unemployment, searching for work that has not yet arrived, watching your savings shrink, sending application after application into what sometimes feels like complete silence. My beloved child, I want to speak first to something underneath this specific waiting. The belief that your worth is somehow tied to your paycheck, to your title, to your ability to answer the question of what you do with a confident, immediate response. I want you to consider how deeply our culture has taught you to locate your value in productivity, in employment, in the ability to contribute financially and professionally in ways that are immediately visible and easily explained to others. My beloved child, I did not design your worth to be measured this way. Your value was established the moment I created you, entirely separate from your employment status, your income, or your professional title. Unemployment does not diminish your worth, however much this season has made you feel otherwise. I also want to speak to the specific shame that accompanies this waiting room, the awkward conversations at gatherings when someone asks what you do, and you must explain again that you are still searching. The comparison to peers who seem to be advancing steadily while you remain stuck. The quiet fear that something is wrong with you specifically, since surely if you were truly capable, you would have found something by now. My beloved child, I want you to release this shame. The job market, timing, circumstances entirely outside your control. All of these factors shape this season as much as your own effort and capability do. I want you to know that I am not withholding provision from you carelessly. I am actively working even now, aligning circumstances, opening doors that have not yet become visible to you, preparing you for a position that is not yet ready to receive you, or that you are not yet fully ready to step into. My beloved child, this does not minimize the real financial and emotional strain this waiting room has created, but I want you to trust that I have not forgotten you here, and I am working toward provision even in the silence of unanswered applications. So, my beloved child, if unemployment is your specific waiting room right now, release the shame of it. Trust that your worth has never depended on your employment status, and continue trusting that I am working toward provision, even in the frustrating, uncertain silence this particular season has required you to endure. My beloved child, I have spoken to those waiting in unemployment, and now I want to speak to those of you waiting in the room of singleness, longing for a partner who has not yet arrived, watching friends marry and build families while you continue waiting, wondering if this particular waiting room will ever have an exit. My beloved child, I want to say something to you clearly today. You are not incomplete without a partner. Your life is not on pause, waiting for someone else to arrive before it can truly begin. You are already whole, already valuable, already living a complete life, even in the middle of this specific waiting. I want you to consider how much cultural pressure exists around this particular waiting room. The assumption that a single life is somehow a lesser, unfinished version of a truly successful life, that marriage represents the real beginning, while singleness represents merely a holding pattern before life actually starts. My beloved child, I want to correct this assumption completely. I do not consider your single life to be a lesser or incomplete version of anything. It is a full, real, meaningful season, capable of purpose, joy, and significance entirely independent of whether or when a partner eventually arrives. I also want to speak to the specific ache of watching others reach this particular milestone while you continue waiting. The weddings you attend while quietly wondering if your own will ever come. The family gatherings where you are asked, again, whether you have met anyone yet. The quiet loneliness of returning home to an empty house after a long day. My beloved child, I understand this ache fully, and I do not want to minimize it with platitudes about the sufficiency of singleness that ignore the genuine, legitimate longing for partnership that you carry. I want you to know that I am not withholding a partner from you as some kind of test or punishment. My beloved child, if this is part of what I have planned for your life, I am actively working toward it, aligning timing, preparing both you and the person I may be preparing for you, in ways that require more patience than you would prefer, but that are not evidence of neglect or forgetfulness on my part. I have not lost track of this longing simply because its fulfillment has not yet arrived. I also want you to consider that this waiting season, whether or not it ends in partnership, is not wasted time to be endured until your real life begins. My beloved child, I want you to build a full life now in this season, developing friendships, pursuing purpose, deepening your relationship with me, rather than treating your current life as a mere waiting area outside the real story you believe can only begin once a partner arrives. So my beloved child, if singleness is your specific waiting room right now, release the belief that it makes you incomplete. You are whole now, valuable now, capable of a full and meaningful life now, even while this particular longing remains unresolved, and I am fully present with you in every part of it. My beloved child, I have spoken to your singleness, and now I want to speak directly to the question you keep asking, the one word that has become almost a constant companion to your prayers: when? When will this waiting end? When will the job finally come? When will the relationship finally arrive? When will the healing finally complete? My beloved child, I want to speak honestly into this question rather than avoiding it, because I know how exhausting it becomes to keep asking without receiving a clear answer. I want you to consider why I often do not answer the question of when directly, even though I certainly could. My beloved child, if I gave you a specific date, you would likely spend the time between now and then either anxiously counting down or growing complacent, coasting toward a known finish line rather than remaining genuinely present and faithful throughout the actual process. The absence of a specific answer to when is not cruelty. It is an invitation to remain present, engaged, and trusting throughout the actual waiting, rather than simply enduring until a known date arrives. I also want to speak to the specific frustration of watching this question go unanswered for far longer than you expected when you first began asking. My beloved child, I understand this frustration completely. I am not offended by your continued asking, and I do not want you to feel guilty for continuing to bring this question honestly before me, even after months or years without a clear response. Continuing to ask is not evidence of insufficient faith. It is evidence of ongoing, honest relationship, exactly the kind of relationship I want to have with you throughout this waiting. I want you to release the specific expectation that faith requires you to stop asking when, replacing the question with a forced, artificial contentment that does not reflect what you are actually feeling. My beloved child, you can continue asking when honestly, while also trusting my character in the absence of an answer. These two things are not contradictory. Bring me your question again today, as many times as you need to, and trust that I hear it fully every single time, even when my answer remains, for now, simply not yet. I want you to consider that even without knowing when, you can still know certain things with confidence, that I am present, that I am working, that this waiting has purpose, that the answer, whenever it arrives, will not be too late. My beloved child, hold on to these certainties even while the specific timing remains unknown, trusting that the absence of a date does not mean the absence of movement toward your answer. So my beloved child, keep asking when, honestly, as often as you need to. I am not tired of your question, and I am not withholding an answer out of carelessness. I am simply asking you to trust the process of the asking itself, remaining present and engaged throughout this waiting rather than needing a specific date in order to keep trusting me faithfully through it. My beloved child, I have addressed your question of when, and now I want to speak specifically to what I am building while you wait, because I do not want this letter to simply comfort you about the difficulty of waiting without also showing you the actual work happening within it. My beloved child, I am building character in you that could not be built any other way. Patience that only forms through actual practice of waiting. Trust that only deepens through repeated choosing of faith when circumstances have not yet resolved. Resilience that only develops through enduring genuine difficulty over time. I want you to consider how differently a person who has waited well navigates future challenges compared to someone who has always received immediate resolution to their desires. My beloved child, the waiting you are currently enduring is producing a depth of character that will serve you well beyond this specific season, equipping you for future challenges with a resilience and patience that could not have developed through easier, faster paths. I also want to speak to the specific relational depth I am building between us during this waiting. My beloved child, seasons of ease rarely require the same depth of honest conversation, the same reliance on my presence, the same wrestling through doubt and renewed trust that this waiting has required of you. I am using this season to deepen our relationship in ways that comfortable seasons simply could not accomplish, teaching you to know me more intimately than you would have without this extended waiting. I want you to notice what specific skills, insights, or qualities have already begun forming in you during this season, even if the primary thing you are waiting for has not yet arrived. My beloved child, perhaps you have developed a deeper compassion for others walking through similar waiting. Perhaps you have learned to find contentment in circumstances that are not yet ideal. Perhaps your prayer life has grown more honest, more resilient, less dependent on quick answers. All of this formation matters, and none of it would exist without this specific season of waiting. I want you to trust that when the waiting finally ends, whatever you were waiting for will be received by a version of you that has been genuinely prepared to receive it well, rather than a version of you who simply endured the waiting without any corresponding growth. My beloved child, this preparation is not incidental to your story. It is central to it, and I am fully engaged in accomplishing it, even in the parts of this waiting room that feel, to you, like nothing productive is happening at all. So my beloved child, trust the building happening in this season. I am not simply making you wait arbitrarily. I am forming something significant in you, something that will matter long after this specific waiting room finally opens into whatever comes next. My beloved child, I have shown you what I am building while you wait, And now I want to speak to a specific temptation that grows stronger the longer this waiting room stretches on. The temptation to settle just to escape the discomfort of continuing to wait. My beloved child, I understand this temptation deeply. Waiting is exhausting, and the prospect of ending it, even through a choice that does not fully align with what you actually need or deserve, can feel deeply appealing simply because it promises relief from the discomfort of continued uncertainty. I want you to consider the specific forms this temptation might take in your particular waiting room. Accepting a job far beneath what you are capable of and content with long-term, simply to escape the anxiety of continued unemployment. Or entering a relationship with someone who does not truly align with what you need, simply to escape the loneliness of continued singleness. My beloved child, I want you to pause before making these kinds of decisions purely out of exhaustion with the waiting itself, rather than out of genuine confirmation that this specific choice is actually right for you. I also want to speak to the difference between wise flexibility, which I do want you to have, and desperate settling, which I want you to recognize and resist. My beloved child, wisdom sometimes means adjusting your specific expectations, accepting a role that is not your ultimate dream job as a temporary bridge, or being open to a partner who does not match every item on a rigid checklist you constructed years ago. This kind of flexibility is healthy. Settling out of sheer exhaustion, entering something you already sense is genuinely wrong simply because you cannot bear the waiting any longer, is different and often leads to consequences that outlast the temporary relief it provides. I want you to bring your exhaustion with the waiting honestly to me before making significant decisions meant to escape it. My beloved child, tell me plainly that you are tired, that you are tempted to settle, that the waiting has become nearly unbearable. I will not judge you for this honesty, but I do want to help you distinguish between wise adjustment and desperate settling before you commit to a decision that may cost you more than the continued waiting ever would have. I want you to trust that I understand the weight of this exhaustion, and I am not asking you to endure it indefinitely without any adjustment or flexibility. My beloved child, I simply want you to make decisions from a place of genuine confirmation rather than sheer desperation, trusting that I am still working towards something better than the temporary relief that settling might currently offer. So my beloved child, resist the temptation to settle purely out of exhaustion with the waiting. Bring that exhaustion to me honestly, and let me help you discern the difference between wise flexibility and desperate settling before you make decisions that will shape the rest of your story. My beloved child, I have warned you gently against settling out of exhaustion, and now I want to speak to a specific pain within this waiting room, comparing your waiting room to someone else's exit. My beloved child, I know how sharply it stings to watch someone else, perhaps someone who began waiting after you did, walk out of their own waiting room while you remain seated, still waiting, wondering why their door opened first when your need seems just as genuine, just as long-standing, just as deserving of resolution. I want you to consider how limited your perspective actually is in these comparisons. My beloved child, you cannot see the fullness of what was required to prepare that other person for what they received, nor can you see the fullness of what is still being prepared for you. Their exit does not indicate that your own door is somehow less certain to open, or that I have somehow prioritized their need over yours. It simply means their particular door was ready to open at this particular time. According to a timeline shaped by countless factors, you are not fully able to observe from where you sit. I also want to speak to the specific resentment that can grow from this comparison, especially when it involves someone close to you, a friend, a sibling, someone whose good news you must celebrate even while quietly grieving your own continued waiting. My beloved child, I understand how difficult it is to hold both of these feelings simultaneously. Genuine happiness for someone you love alongside genuine grief over your own unresolved longing. I do not want you to suppress either feeling, but I also do not want the comparison to curdle into bitterness that damages a relationship I still want to bless. I want you to release the specific fear that someone else's exit means your own waiting room has somehow been forgotten or deprioritized. My beloved child, I am not distributing blessings from a limited supply, where someone else's provision means less remains available for you. Each door opens according to its own specific timing, shaped by its own specific preparation. entirely separate from anyone else's story unfolding alongside yours. So, my beloved child, release the comparison between your waiting room and someone else's exit. Their door opening does not diminish the certainty of yours eventually opening as well. Continue trusting that your own specific timing is being prepared, exactly as carefully and exactly as faithfully as anyone else's timing has ever been prepared throughout this entire process. My beloved child, I have released you from comparing your waiting room to someone else's exit. And now I want to speak to the specific skills that are formed only in the waiting room, capacities that simply cannot develop anywhere else, regardless of how much you might wish there were a faster path to acquiring them. My beloved child, I want you to consider these skills specifically, because I do not want this season to pass without you recognizing what it is actually producing in you, even while the primary outcome you are waiting for remains unresolved. I want you to consider the skill of contentment in incomplete circumstances, learning to find genuine peace and purpose even while significant longings remain unmet. My beloved child, this is not a skill that develops in seasons where everything you want arrives quickly and easily. It develops specifically here, in the extended waiting, through the daily practice of choosing gratitude and presence, even while the primary desire of your heart continues waiting for resolution. I also want to speak to the skill of discernment that waiting often sharpens, the ability to distinguish between genuine confirmation and desperate wishful thinking, between wise patience and unhealthy passivity. My beloved child, this discernment develops through the repeated practice of examining your own motives and impulses during a season that provides ample opportunity for exactly this kind of self-examination, opportunity that a faster, easier path would never have provided. I want you to consider also the skill of deep, resilient hope, the kind that persists even without immediate evidence, the kind that continues believing even after disappointment has visited more than once. My beloved child, this resilient hope cannot be manufactured quickly. It is forged specifically through extended waiting, through choosing to hope again after each disappointment, until hope itself becomes a durable, well-practiced discipline rather than a fragile, easily shattered feeling. I want you to notice these skills forming in yourself even now. Contentment developing slowly, discernment sharpening gradually, hope becoming more resilient with each renewed choice to keep believing. My beloved child, none of this formation is wasted, and none of it would exist without the very waiting room you have been longing to escape. So, my beloved child, trust that this waiting room, difficult as it is producing skills in you that will serve you for the rest of your life, well beyond the specific resolution you are currently waiting for. These skills are not consolation prizes for the difficulty of waiting. They are genuine, valuable formation, happening in real time, even now, even in the middle of this uncertain, uncomfortable season. My beloved child, I have shown you the skills forming only in this waiting room. And now I want to speak to the loneliness of the waiting room itself, because I know this specific season often carries an isolation that other seasons do not. My beloved child, waiting rooms are rarely crowded with people who fully understand what you are experiencing. And even when others are present, each person's specific wait is different enough that genuine companionship in this particular struggle can feel difficult to find. I want you to consider how isolating it feels when the people around you have already exited their own waiting rooms, moving forward into resolution while you remain seated, watching their lives progress in ways yours has not yet been able to. My beloved child, this can create a particular kind of loneliness, not simply the absence of people, but the sense that even present people cannot fully relate to what you are currently carrying. I also want to speak to the temptation toward isolation this loneliness can produce, withdrawing from gatherings where your continued waiting will inevitably become visible, avoiding conversations that require explaining. Again, that nothing has changed since the last time someone asked. My beloved child, I understand this temptation, but I do not want you to isolate yourself entirely during this season. Loneliness in the waiting room is real, but complete isolation will only deepen it further, cutting you off from whatever comfort and support remains genuinely available to you. I want you to consider seeking out others who are also waiting, even if their specific wait looks different from yours. because there is a particular understanding that exists between people who are actively enduring uncertain seasons, regardless of the specific form that uncertainty takes. My beloved child, community with fellow waiters, even imperfect community, can ease some of this isolation, offering companionship from people who understand the general experience of prolonged uncertainty even if they cannot fully understand your specific circumstances. I want you to know, above all, that I am present with you in this waiting room, even in its loneliest moments, even when no human companion fully understands what you are carrying. My beloved child, I am not simply observing your waiting from a distance. I am sitting here with you, in this uncomfortable room, fully aware of the isolation this season has created, fully committed to remaining close to you throughout it. So my beloved child, resist complete isolation, even while acknowledging the genuine loneliness this waiting room has produced. Seek out whatever companionship remains available to you, and trust that I am the most consistent, most fully present companion you have in this specific season, closer to you than the isolation might currently allow you to feel. My beloved child, I have spoken to the loneliness of the waiting room, and now I want to speak to a promise I want you to hold on to, trusting the door will open at the right time. My beloved child, I know how easy it is, after extended waiting, to begin doubting whether the door will ever actually open at all, wondering if this waiting room is simply your permanent condition rather than a genuinely temporary season. I want to speak clearly into that doubt today. The door will open. I am not asking you to wait indefinitely in a room with no eventual exit. I want you to consider the specific quality of trust this promise requires. Not trust that you already know exactly when the door will open, but trust that it will open at precisely the right time, a time I have already determined, even though I have not yet revealed it to you. My beloved child, this trust does not eliminate the difficulty of not knowing the specific timing. It simply provides a foundation underneath that difficulty, a certainty about the eventual outcome even while the specific timing remains unknown. I also want to speak to what it might mean to actively prepare for the door opening, even while you continue waiting for it. My beloved child, I do not want you to wait passively, doing nothing to prepare for the moment this season finally ends. I want you to continue developing skills, continue nurturing relationships, continue growing in whatever ways are available to you now, so that when the door finally opens, you step through it ready, rather than caught off guard by an opportunity you did not adequately prepare to receive. I want you to trust that the specific timing of this door opening has been carefully considered, not carelessly delayed, not randomly assigned, but intentionally set according to a wisdom that accounts for factors you cannot currently see: your own readiness, the readiness of circumstances connected to your situation, the alignment of everything that needs to come together in order for this door to open in a way that genuinely serves your good, rather than simply satisfying your immediate desire for relief from the waiting. I want you to hold this promise close during the hardest days of this season, when doubt whispers that the door will never open, when exhaustion tempts you to stop believing that resolution is genuinely coming. My beloved child, the door will open. I am not asking you to wait forever. I am asking you to wait until the right time, trusting that right time is coming, even though it has not yet arrived. So my beloved child, trust the door will open at exactly the right time. Continue preparing, continue trusting, continue waiting faithfully, knowing that this season, however long it has already lasted, is not permanent. It is temporary, moving steadily toward a resolution I have already planned, even though its specific timing remains, for now, still hidden from your view. My beloved child, I have promised you that the door will open at the right time. And now I want to speak practically to what to do with your hands while you wait, because I do not want this season to become simply passive endurance, empty of any active engagement while you wait for circumstances to change. My beloved child, I want you to consider what productive, meaningful activity is available to you right now in this exact season, regardless of how long it continues. I want you to think about the skills you could be developing, the relationships you could be deepening, the areas of personal growth you could be pursuing, all of which remain available to you even while the primary thing you are waiting for has not yet arrived. My beloved child, this is not about frantically filling time to distract yourself from the discomfort of waiting. It is about genuinely engaging with the life you actually have right now, rather than treating it as a mere placeholder before your real life supposedly begins. I also want to speak to the specific temptation toward complete stagnation that extended waiting can produce, the sense that nothing is worth pursuing until the primary resolution finally arrives, that any effort spent now will simply be wasted once circumstances change anyway. My beloved child, I want you to resist this stagnation. The effort you invest now, in whatever form is available to you, is not wasted, even if it does not directly produce the specific outcome you are waiting for. It is building something in you, something that will serve you well, regardless of when or how this season finally resolves. I want you to consider small, concrete ways to engage meaningfully with your current season. Learning something new, serving someone else who is also struggling, investing in a hobby or creative pursuit that has been neglected, strengthening a relationship that has room to grow. My beloved child, none of this requires waiting for your primary circumstances to change first. All of it is available to you right now, in the middle of this very waiting room. I want you to trust that this active engagement, however small it may seem, matters. My beloved child, I am not asking you to force yourself into exhausting busyness simply to avoid feeling the discomfort of waiting. I am asking you to remain genuinely present and engaged with the actual life you have right now, trusting that this engagement itself is part of the preparation happening within this season. So, my beloved child, consider what your hands can meaningfully do while you wait. Do not simply sit passively, watching the clock, waiting for circumstances to change before you allow yourself to engage fully with life again. Engage now, in whatever ways are genuinely available to you, trusting that this engagement is not wasted, regardless of how long this particular waiting room continues to hold you. My beloved child, I have spoken to what your hands can do while you wait, and now I want to speak to a fear you may be quietly carrying, the belief that this waiting room is somehow a punishment, that you are being made to wait because of some failure, some mistake, some way you fell short that I am now correcting through extended delay. My beloved child, I want to correct this belief completely. The waiting room is not a punishment. It is preparation, and preparation is fundamentally different from punishment, motivated by love and purpose rather than retribution. I want you to consider how easily the mind, especially during prolonged difficulty, begins searching for explanations rooted in personal failure, assuming that if things were going well, this waiting would already be over. My beloved child, this search for blame is understandable, but it is not accurate. Waiting seasons are not always, or even usually, evidence of personal failure requiring correction. They are often simply the natural timeline required for genuine preparation, entirely separate from any wrongdoing on your part. I also want to speak to the specific guilt that develops when you begin believing this waiting is deserved punishment, adding a layer of self-blame on top of an already difficult season. My beloved child, I do not want you carrying this additional weight. I am not punishing you through this waiting room. I am walking with you through it, preparing you and your circumstances for what comes next, motivated entirely by love rather than retribution for some perceived failure. I want you to release the search for blame that this extended waiting may have triggered in you. My beloved child, sometimes waiting is simply waiting, without a hidden lesson about personal failure attached to it, without a specific sin requiring correction, before the door will finally open. Sometimes circumstances, timing, and factors entirely outside your control simply require more time than you would prefer, and this delay does not reflect anything wrong with you specifically. I want you to trust my character over the fear that this waiting represents punishment. My beloved child, I have shown you throughout this entire letter that I am fully present with you in this season, actively preparing you and your circumstances, motivated by genuine love rather than any desire to punish you through extended delay. Release the guilt and trust instead that this waiting room, however uncomfortable, is purposeful rather than punitive. So my beloved child, let go of the belief that this waiting is deserved punishment for some failure on your part. It is preparation, motivated by love, and I want you to release the guilt that has quietly attached itself to this season, trusting instead in the genuine care behind every day you have spent waiting here. My beloved child, I have released you from the belief that this waiting is punishment. And now I want to speak to the importance of community within this specific season, because I do not want you to walk through this waiting room in complete isolation from the people who could genuinely support you through it. My beloved child, I know it can feel easier to withdraw, especially when explaining your continued waiting to others becomes exhausting, repetitive, or simply uncomfortable given how long this season has already stretched on. But I want to invite you toward connection rather than complete withdrawal. I want you to consider who in your life is capable of holding this waiting with you without adding pressure, without offering unsolicited advice about what you should be doing differently, without treating your continued waiting as evidence of some deficiency on your part. My beloved child, these are the people I want you to draw closer during this season, even if that circle is small, even if it consists of only 1 or 2 people who genuinely understand how to support you through prolonged uncertainty. I also want to speak to the specific value of connecting with others who are also waiting, even in different circumstances than yours. My beloved child, there is a particular understanding shared between people currently enduring their own uncertain seasons, a companionship that does not require identical circumstances in order to provide genuine comfort and solidarity. Seek out these fellow waiters, whether through formal support communities or simply through honest conversations with people you already know who happen to be navigating their own version of this same difficult experience. I want you to release any shame about needing support during this season. The belief that a stronger, more faithful person would not need to lean on community while waiting. That genuine trust in me should be sufficient without requiring human companionship as well. My beloved child, I designed you for both. Trust in me and genuine human connection, and needing both simultaneously is not evidence of insufficient faith. It is simply evidence of being human, exactly as I created you to be. I want you to actively reach out today, even in small ways, to someone who could offer companionship during this waiting. My beloved child, I know reaching out can feel vulnerable, especially after repeated seasons of explaining your continued circumstances to people who may not fully understand. But isolation will only deepen the difficulty of this waiting room, while genuine connection, even imperfect connection, can ease some of its weight. So my beloved child, do not walk through this waiting room entirely alone. Seek out the community available to you, however small, and let their presence become part of how I am sustaining you through this season, alongside my own presence, which remains constant regardless of who else is or is not currently walking alongside you. My beloved child, I have invited you into community during this waiting, and now I want to speak to the specific despair that arrives when the waiting room feels endless, when you have genuinely lost track of how long you have been sitting here, when hope itself has begun to feel exhausting rather than encouraging. My beloved child, I want to meet you exactly in this specific despair today, not with easy answers, but with honest presence in the middle of what feels right now like it may never actually end. I want you to consider that this feeling of endlessness, however real it feels, is not the same as actual endlessness. My beloved child, seasons that feel permanent while you are living inside them do eventually give way to new seasons, even when the feeling of permanence is nearly overwhelming. I am not asking you to trust a feeling that says this will never end. I am asking you to trust the truth that it will end, even while the feeling of endlessness continues to weigh heavily on you right now. I also want to speak to what it looks like to survive the specific days when despair feels strongest, when hope has become genuinely difficult to access. My beloved child, on these days, I do not require you to manufacture confident faith you do not currently feel. I simply ask you to keep showing up, to keep breathing, to keep taking the next small step in front of you, even without the emotional certainty that everything will work out. Faith on the hardest days sometimes looks less like confident hope and more like simply continuing to exist, continuing to function, continuing to trust even when trust feels nearly impossible to access emotionally. I want you to know that I am especially close to you on these specific days, the ones where the waiting feels most unbearable, most endless, most hopeless. My beloved child, I do not withdraw from you during your most difficult moments. I draw nearer, present in exactly the darkness that feels to you like evidence of my absence. Your inability to feel my presence during these hardest days does not mean I have actually withdrawn. It simply means the despair is loud enough to temporarily drown out what remains true underneath it. I want you to bring me this specific despair honestly, without minimizing it, without pretending you feel more hopeful than you actually do right now. My beloved child, I can hold your despair completely, and I will not withdraw from you because of how heavy it currently feels. So my beloved child, on the days this waiting room feels genuinely endless, simply keep showing up. You do not need confident faith on every single day. You simply need to keep trusting, even in small, exhausted increments, that this season, however endless it currently feels, is not actually permanent, and that I remain close to you, especially in the exact moments it feels hardest to believe that I am. My beloved child, I have met you in the despair of endless feeling waiting, and now I want to speak to the day this waiting room finally opens, because even that moment requires some preparation, some understanding, so that you are ready to receive it fully, rather than being overwhelmed by the sudden shift from prolonged waiting into actual movement forward. My beloved child, when this door finally opens, I want you to walk through it with intention, not rushing so quickly that you fail to properly close this chapter, and not hesitating so long that you fail to actually step into what has finally arrived. I want you to consider that the transition out of a long waiting room can itself feel disorienting, even though it is the very thing you have been longing for. My beloved child, after extended waiting, sudden movement can feel almost unfamiliar, and I want you to give yourself grace for however strange this transition feels, even in the midst of genuine celebration and relief. This disorientation does not mean something is wrong. It simply means you are adjusting to a significant shift after a long season of relative stillness. I also want to speak to the specific grief that sometimes accompanies even a welcome transition, the recognition of how much this waiting cost you. Time, energy, certain opportunities that may have passed by during this extended season. My beloved child, you are allowed to feel both genuine gratitude for the door finally opening and genuine grief over what the waiting required of you along the way. These two feelings can coexist without either one diminishing the other. I want you to walk through this eventual open door with the wisdom this waiting room has already given you, the patience, the discernment, the resilience formed specifically through this extended season. My beloved child, do not leave these lessons behind simply because the immediate circumstance that required them has finally resolved. Carry this formation forward into whatever comes next, trusting that it will continue serving you well beyond this specific transition. I want you to remember, when this door finally opens, to look back briefly and acknowledge everything you walked through here, honoring the difficulty of this season, rather than immediately forgetting it the moment relief finally arrives. My beloved child, this acknowledgement is not about dwelling in the past. It is about honoring the genuine cost of this waiting, allowing yourself full recognition of what you endured before moving fully into whatever comes next. So my beloved child, when the day finally comes and this door opens, walk through it with intention, with gratitude, with the wisdom this season has given you, and with grace for whatever disorientation or grief accompanies even this welcome transition. I will be walking through that door right alongside you, exactly as I have been present with you throughout every single day of this waiting room that came before it. My beloved child, I have spoken to the day this waiting room finally opens, and now I want to speak to something you may not have fully acknowledged yet, the grief of what the waiting itself has cost you. My beloved child, I want you to give yourself full permission to grieve this cost honestly. The years that passed differently than you had once imagined, the opportunities that may have closed while you remained in this room, the version of your life you once expected to be living by now that has not yet materialized because of this extended season. I want you to consider how easy it is to minimize this grief once the waiting finally ends, telling yourself simply to be grateful now that resolution has arrived, without ever properly honoring what the actual waiting required of you along the way. My beloved child, gratitude for the eventual resolution and grief over the cost of the waiting are not mutually exclusive. You are allowed to hold both fully, without either one canceling out the legitimacy of the other. I also want to speak to the specific losses this waiting room may have produced, relationships that grew strained under the pressure of extended uncertainty, financial setbacks that will take time to fully recover from, a general sense of lost time that no amount of eventual success can fully restore. My beloved child, I do not want you to pretend these losses did not happen simply because the waiting has finally ended. Name them honestly, and let me grieve them alongside you, even while we also celebrate whatever good has finally arrived. I want you to trust that acknowledging this grief does not diminish your gratitude for the resolution you have finally received. My beloved child, mature faith is capable of holding complexity, celebrating genuine good while also honestly grieving genuine cost, without needing either one to be minimized in order to make room for the other. So my beloved child, whenever this waiting room finally ends, take time to grieve honestly what it cost you, alongside celebrating whatever good has finally arrived. I am present for both, the grief and the gratitude, and I do not want you to rush past either one simply because the primary resolution has finally come. My beloved child, I have honored the grief this waiting has cost you, and now I want to speak to something reassuring, trusting that you were not forgotten during any single day of this extended season. My beloved child, I know how easily prolonged waiting can produce the fear that you have somehow slipped through the cracks, overlooked, deprioritized, forgotten in the midst of everyone else's more immediately resolved circumstances. I want to speak clearly into this fear today. You were never forgotten. Not for a single day of this waiting room did I lose track of you or your specific need. I want you to consider how personally I have remained engaged with your specific situation throughout this entire season, not managing your life from a distance through some general, impersonal oversight, but attentively, specifically, aware of every detail of what this waiting has required of you. My beloved child, I know exactly how many days you have been sitting in this room. I know exactly what this waiting has cost you financially, emotionally, relationally. None of it has escaped my attention. Even in the moments it felt like you were waiting in complete silence. I also want to speak to the specific fear that other people's needs somehow took priority over yours, that I was busy attending to more urgent situations while your own waiting continued unaddressed. My beloved child, I am not limited in this way. I am not divided between competing priorities, forced to choose whose need matters more in any given moment. I have been completely present with you throughout this entire waiting room, exactly as fully present as I have been with anyone else navigating their own specific season simultaneously. I want you to release the fear of being forgotten, replacing it with the truth that you have been fully known, fully seen, and fully remembered throughout every single day of this waiting. My beloved child, the length of this season does not indicate neglect. It indicates the specific amount of time this particular preparation genuinely required, an amount of time I have been present for and engaged with throughout its entirety. So, my beloved child, trust that you were never forgotten. Every day of this waiting room has been fully known by me, fully attended to, fully part of the ongoing, personal relationship we have been building together throughout this extended, difficult, but ultimately purposeful season. My beloved child, I have reassured you that you were never forgotten. And now I want to speak to how this specific waiting room might be shaping the way you approach every future season of waiting still to come, because I know this will not be the last time in your life that you find yourself sitting in a room with no clear exit date. My beloved child, I want you to consider this current season as training ground, not simply for the specific outcome you are waiting for now, but for how you will approach every future waiting room you encounter throughout the rest of your life. I want you to consider what you are learning right now about your own capacity to endure uncertainty, about the practices that genuinely help you remain steady during extended difficulty, about the specific ways you have learned to bring your honest fears and frustrations to me rather than suppressing them or pretending they do not exist. My beloved child, all of this learning becomes a resource you will carry into every future season of waiting, whatever form it eventually takes. I also want to speak to how this season is teaching you to recognize the specific signs of my presence during difficult waiting, the subtle encouragements, the timely reminders, the sense of peace that occasionally breaks through the uncertainty, even without full resolution having arrived yet. My beloved child, learning to recognize these signs now will help you recognize them more quickly in future seasons. Rather than needing to relearn this recognition from scratch every single time a new waiting room presents itself, I want you to trust that this current difficulty is not simply painful for its own sake. My beloved child, I am using it to build a permanent resource within you, a capacity for enduring uncertainty well that will serve you throughout the rest of your life, long after this specific waiting room has become a distant memory. So my beloved child, let this season teach you well, not simply for the sake of surviving it, but for the sake of everything. It is preparing you to carry into whatever future seasons of waiting still lie ahead. I am building something permanent in you through this specific difficulty, something that will continue serving you long after this particular door has finally opened. My beloved child, I have shown you how this season is training you for future waiting rooms, and now I want to speak to one more practical matter before we close. The specific practice of gratitude within this current waiting, because I do not want you to wait for the resolution before allowing yourself to notice what is already good in your life right now. My beloved child, practicing gratitude does not require pretending the waiting is not difficult. It simply means training your attention to notice what remains true and good, even in the middle of this unresolved season. I want you to consider naming specifically what you are grateful for today, unrelated to the primary thing you are still waiting for. My beloved child, perhaps it is a friendship that has remained steady, a skill you have developed, a small moment of unexpected joy that broke through the heaviness of this season. Naming these things does not diminish the reality of your continued waiting. It simply prevents the waiting from consuming every part of your attention and every part of your capacity for genuine appreciation of what is already present in your life. I also want to speak to how this practice of gratitude protects you from the specific danger of comparison and resentment that extended waiting can produce. My beloved child, a heart actively practicing gratitude has less room for the bitterness that watching others exit their own waiting rooms might otherwise produce. This does not mean gratitude erases the genuine ache of continued waiting. It simply means gratitude and ache can coexist, softening the edges of resentment even while the primary longing remains unresolved. I want you to make this practice a regular part of your days in this waiting room, not once, but repeatedly, training your attention toward gratitude as a genuine discipline rather than a rare, occasional exercise. My beloved child, I want this practice to become part of the permanent formation this season is producing in you, a discipline that will continue serving you well beyond this specific waiting room, into whatever seasons of ease or difficulty still lie ahead. So my beloved child, practice gratitude today, specifically, honestly, without pretending the waiting does not remain difficult. Let this practice become one more way I am forming you well within this season, even while the primary thing you are waiting for continues, for now, to remain unresolved. My beloved child, I have walked with you through this entire letter, showing you that the waiting room is not empty time, that your worth is not tied to your paycheck during unemployment, that you are not incomplete during singleness, that your continued asking of when does not disqualify you from my presence. that I am actively building character and skill in you throughout this season, that settling out of exhaustion is a temptation worth resisting, that comparing your waiting room to someone else's exit only deepens unnecessary pain. That specific skills are being formed here that could not form anywhere else. That the loneliness of this room does not mean you must remain in complete isolation. That the door will open at exactly the right time. That your hands can engage meaningfully with life even now. That this waiting is not punishment. That community remains available and valuable throughout this season. That even the days this waiting feels endless are not evidence of true endlessness. That walking through the eventual open door requires intention and grace. That grieving what the waiting cost you is fully legitimate. That you have never once been forgotten throughout any part of this process. That this season is training you for every future waiting room still to come. And that gratitude remains available even now, in the middle of everything still unresolved. My beloved child, now I want to speak one final word over you as this letter comes to its close. I see you, sitting in this waiting room, tired, uncertain, longing for the door to finally open. I want you to know that I have not forgotten you here, not for a single moment of however long this season has already lasted. I am actively working, preparing you, preparing your circumstances, preparing the very thing you are waiting for, even in the silence that sometimes makes it feel like nothing is happening at all. I want you to carry this truth forward into whatever remains of this waiting, however many more days, weeks, months, or even years it turns out to require. This room is not your permanent home. It is a temporary space, purposeful and preparatory, leading eventually to a door that will open at exactly the right time, according to a timing I have already determined, even though it remains, for now, hidden from your view. My beloved child, rest in this truth today. You are not forgotten. You are not being punished. You are not wasting time. You are being prepared, carefully, faithfully, in ways that will matter long after this specific waiting room has become simply one more chapter in the larger story I am writing through your life. I am with you here, fully present, fully engaged, and I will remain with you until the exact moment this door finally opens into whatever comes next. My beloved child, I want to leave you with one final image before this letter ends. Picture yourself sitting in a waiting room, exactly as you have been. But now picture me sitting directly beside you, not standing at a distant desk managing your case impersonally, not occasionally checking in from behind a closed door, but seated right next to you, present in every uncomfortable minute of this wait. My beloved child, this image is not simply a comforting metaphor. It reflects the actual truth of my presence with you throughout this entire season. I have been here the whole time, close enough to hear every unspoken frustration, close enough to notice every quiet tear, close enough to remain fully aware of exactly how long this waiting has already stretched on. I want you to let this image settle into the parts of you that have felt most alone during this season, replacing the isolation of extended waiting with the quiet, steady reality of my presence beside you. My beloved child, you have never been waiting in this room by yourself. I have been sitting here with you the entire time, patient with however long this preparation requires, present with you in every single day. This waiting room has already held you. So my beloved child, the next time this waiting feels unbearable, the next time you wonder whether the door will ever actually open, return to this image. I am beside you, in this exact room, fully present, fully committed to remaining with you until the moment this specific season finally gives way to whatever I have been preparing all along. My beloved child, before you close this letter, I want to speak once more to the ordinary days that make up most of this waiting room experience, because I know the temptation is to treat every ordinary day within this season as merely an obstacle standing between you and the real life you believe will only begin once the waiting ends. My beloved child, I want you to release this belief. This ordinary day right now is part of your real life, not a placeholder before it begins. I am fully present in it, fully engaged with you in it. Exactly as fully as I will be present on the eventual day, this waiting room finally opens into something new. I want you to consider what it might mean to live fully within today, rather than mentally living in some imagined future where the waiting has already ended. My beloved child, this does not mean abandoning hope for that future resolution. It simply means refusing to sacrifice today entirely on the altar of waiting for tomorrow, choosing instead to find whatever genuine meaning, connection, and purpose is available to you right now, in the middle of this actual, current, unresolved season. I also want to speak to how this practice of living fully within ordinary, waiting room days actually strengthens your capacity to eventually step into whatever comes next. My beloved child, someone who has learned to remain present and engaged even during difficult, uncertain seasons carries a different kind of readiness into new opportunities than someone who has simply been marking time, disengaged, waiting passively for real life to begin. I want you to be the former, fully present now, fully ready for whatever comes next, precisely because you did not abandon the present moment while waiting for the future to arrive. I want you to practice this presence today, in this ordinary, unremarkable day within your waiting room. My beloved child, notice what is actually happening around you right now. Notice the people present in your life today. Notice the small moments of genuine goodness that exist even within this difficult season. This practice of noticing is not denial of the difficulty. It is simply refusing to let the difficulty consume every part of your attention and every part of your capacity for genuine presence. So, my beloved child, live fully within this ordinary day, and every ordinary day still remaining within this waiting room. They are not wasted time, not merely obstacles to be endured. They are part of your actual life, fully worthy of your genuine presence and engagement, exactly as much as any future day of resolution will eventually be. My beloved child, one final thought before you close this letter and return to your day. If today happens to be one of the harder days in this waiting room, one where doubt feels especially loud and the door feels especially far away, I want you to do something small and simple. Speak these words out loud, quietly if you must, but let your own voice say them clearly. I am not forgotten. I am being prepared. The door will open at the right time. My beloved child, sometimes truth needs to be spoken aloud before it can settle fully into the parts of you still wrestling with doubt. Let your own voice remind you of everything this letter has already spoken over you. I want you to return to this letter as often as this waiting room requires, not as a single dose of comfort meant to resolve every doubt permanently, but as a well you can draw from again and again, especially on the days trusting feels hardest. My beloved child, I will be here every time you return, saying the same faithful thing. You are not forgotten in this waiting room. You never have been. I am preparing you, and I am preparing what you are waiting for, and the door will open at exactly the right time, exactly as it always has for everyone who has ever trusted me through a season like this one. My beloved child, take one more breath before you go. Let your shoulders soften, the way they did at the very beginning of this letter. Whatever specific waiting room you are currently sitting in, however long you have already been here, I want you to release just a little of that weight now, trusting that it rests as securely in my hands as it did the very first day this waiting began. You are not waiting alone. You never have been. I am here, my beloved child, sitting right beside you, and I am not going anywhere until this door finally opens into everything I have been preparing for you all along. My beloved child, I love you in this waiting room, exactly as fully as I will love you on the day you finally walk out of it. Nothing about this season has changed how I feel about you, how committed I am to you, how carefully I am working on your behalf, even in the silence that has felt, at times, unbearably long. Rest now, in the middle of this room, knowing that rest itself is not surrender to the waiting, but simply trust in the one who has never once left your side throughout it. And when the day finally comes, whenever it arrives, remember to come back and tell me about it. Not because I will not already know, but because that moment together, celebrating what we walked through side by side, is part of what this entire waiting room was always building toward. I look forward to that day with you, my beloved child, even now, even in the middle of the waiting that still continues today. My beloved child, go now gently into whatever this day still holds. Carry with you the truth that has anchored this entire letter, that waiting rooms, however uncomfortable, however long they stretch on, are never actually empty of purpose. Something is always being prepared within them, even when nothing visible seems to be changing. Trust this preparation. Trust the timing you cannot yet see. Trust that the door in front of you, closed as it currently appears, is not permanently sealed. It is simply waiting, exactly as you are, for the precise moment I have already determined to be right. My beloved child, hold on to hope today, not as a fragile wish that might disappoint you again, but as a settled confidence rooted in who I am, rather than in how long this season has already lasted. Hope has carried you this far through this waiting room, and hope, renewed again today, will carry you the rest of the way. However much further this particular road still stretches before the door finally opens into what comes next. My beloved child, I will say it once more, plainly, before we part for now. This waiting room is not your final destination. It is a room along this way, purposeful and temporary, and I am with you in every single minute of it, preparing what you are waiting for, and preparing the exact moment this door will finally, faithfully, open. Rest now, my beloved child. I have you. I always have. And I will still be holding you on the day this room finally, at last, opens into everything I have been preparing for you all along, exactly at the right time, exactly as I have promised. I love you, my beloved child, in the waiting and in the answer, in the stillness and in the movement, in the silence of this room and in the sound of the door finally swinging open. Nothing about this season has diminished my love for you, and nothing about how much longer it might still last will diminish it either. Rest, trust, and keep waiting well. I am not finished with you yet, and I am not finished with this waiting room either. Not until every single piece of what I am preparing has finally come fully, completely, faithfully into place.